Hi, everyone. Welcome in. We are so happy to have you join us today as we discuss three key ingredients for business growth. We want to make this extremely interactive of a session, so please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us, what type of business you have that you're running these days. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to in 2024? And feel free to share your LinkedIn profile link so that we can continue to network well beyond this session today.
Hi there.
So as we get started, we're going to just give you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about on our session today. Obviously, we're going to share with you some stories and some lessons learned about the three key ingredients for business growth. But we also want to hear from you as to what your experience has been as well, because we can always learn from each other, right? And of course, it's very, very important that we're all focusing on the things that are going to move us forward as we look at, finalizing our planning for 2024. So, a quick introduction. I'm Dee Horowitz, and I'm the CEO and founder of Busy Boss Network. We're an online community supporting female entrepreneurs' successes. I'm also a small business coach for those that are in startup or amp up mode. And quickly, for just some housekeeping things today, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So please feel free to drop the questions in now as they come to you throughout the different topics that we'll be discussing, or save them for the end. We do have several members on the team that are going to be monitoring the chat, and hopefully we'll be able to queue up those questions for us so we can make sure that we're answering everybody's questions of the day. So with that, I would like to introduce Kristina and have her talk a little bit about herself and her background and kick us off today.
Thanks, Dee. This is so much fun to do this. I think we'll do some more of these eventually. So, my name's Kristina Witmer, and I have led Witmer Group for about 13 years, and we do marketing and content-based solutions to sort of fill the pipeline for companies. And just, over those years, I have seen tons of things that really speak to what we're going to talk about today, which is just what are the things that you need to kind of keep you going and kind of keep moving forward. So looking forward to this conversation. Just to recap, you probably seen on the screen is that we're doing resources, resilience, and planning. Like, how does that affect, your key, and how do those affect your future success? So anyway, let's roll into the first one. I think we'll just move through these. Does that sound good, Dee?
Yeah, that sounds great. It's funny with resources. I think everybody probably initially will go right to like raw materials if you're making products, or you might be thinking of employees as a resource for you. But I think we've got a slightly different spin on the components of these ingredients. So, encourage the audience to kind of stay with us as we move through this, and, don't just automatically assume that we're all talking about the same things, right?
Good. Yep.
And I know that, we've put some thoughts together in terms of the top two things that we want to discuss within each of these ingredients. So, Kristina, what would be the top thought that you had with regard to resources?
Yeah, so resources, pretty straightforward for me. There's a couple things, but one is, when I realize this now, I don't think I realized it in the first couple years, but having a basic CRM tool that will grow with you. So, we're HubSpot partners. So that's just happened in the last few years, but something like that, or something that can start you at a free or starter level that can move as you and grow with you. You can get trained and learn, but really starts to tie in sales, marketing, content, your website. Like the more you do that up front, just a little bit of effort, you will save yourself so much headache and time and pain in the future. So that's my top. So, what about you, Dee? What's one of your tops?
So I think that's an interesting observation is, kind of focusing on those fundamental tools that you need to run your business, like you were saying, because I hear so many times from entrepreneurs that they've fallen victim to the shiny object syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Where they've gone out and spent way more money than they needed to just because it was the latest and greatest. And so somebody told them, oh, you've got to have that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so important that as you're planning for the, the following year and growth, that you are obviously looking at where to make those right investments.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And sticking with the fundamentals, especially at the beginning of your journey as an entrepreneur within the first few years that you're on this
Mm-hmm.
journey. I think that that is so important. For me, I think the number one is my network. And I'm not talking about networking like going to chamber meetings. Yeah, that's important, but I'm talking about who am I surrounding myself with?
Mm-hmm.
Where's in my nucleus, right? That's feeding me ideas and inspiration and, all of those things that lead towards business growth. And I can't help but think about um, this female entrepreneur, Beth. And she has her own HR consulting business, and that's not her real name. So nobody can. I'm not sharing secrets here. But when she first started in business, her mindset was, I'll surround myself with others that are doing the exact same thing as me.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that makes sense because from an acceleration standpoint, you can learn from others that are doing the exact same thing as you. But then what happened was her business started to plateau, and the
Mm-hmm.
reason was she didn't have anybody that was, like, challenging her to to think outside the box or to get outside her comfort zone and do things that everybody else that was doing the same thing as her, doing something
Mm-hmm.
different should really stand out, you know, and that's all, when we were talking, when she and I were talking, it was all around her finally seeing that light bulb go off. Oh my gosh, I've been a victim of confirmation bias.
Oh, well.
And, I mean, we all fall to that. We all want to be validated, that we're on the right path, we're doing the right stuff, and that's cool, and we should seek out those people in our nucleus, but we should also take stock of, is there somebody that's really um, like saying, well, have you thought about doing this that's different? Or
Mm-hmm.
why are you doing it that way? Just kind of challenging you to think differently, right? And so if you don't have those people in your nucleus,
Yeah.
definitely add that to 2024 as an objective. And so I would say to, the audience, if you found yourself in that situation like Beth, what did you do? I'd
Mm-hmm.
really like to hear more from our group as to what were they able to change to get them out of that stuck mode.
Yeah. No, I
And I
think as we evolve, I think we'll dive, I'd love to dive more into these specific challenges and get into 'em. That'd be good. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think your second ingredient, your second component to this ingredient also really lends towards a network, if you will, that
Mm-hmm.
people might not be thinking about. So tell us more about what the other one was that you were thinking of.
Sure thing, sure thing. So, yeah, so I don't know, this was always really second nature for me. So, one thing is that how how you treat, how you pay, how you communicate with partners and vendors is really, really important. Like when you think about it, especially as a small business, these are all people who are fellow small business owners typically, right? Not all vendors are, but a lot of partners are fellow small businesses. And those relationships, the respect you give them, the appreciation, the communication, the time to do their work, it's huge. I mean, it really will go a long way. And that's something I can definitely say over time, you will see the value of. I mean, it is you know, it's almost like a board. It's potentially a board. It's certainly mentoring. It's certainly support. I mean, there's just all these things. So I really choosing your vendor partners, giving people a chance to be human, and also just understanding, delivery times. Like I work with a lot of creative people, designers, web people. I mean, life is life, right? So sometimes, they may need an extra day or different things. Like just keep that communication and respect open to know that these are humans you're dealing with, not, vendors that are to be sort of checked off in a box and not, so there's just something about showing love and respect to those people, and you'll get it back. And it just really helps you grow. There are also referrals of future business. There's so
Yeah.
many things that becomes part of. So I'm pretty passionate about that. And I personally, I don't know if people talk about this a lot, but I actually love the idea that I pay people. Like I support a community of entrepreneurs. It's a big, I just take a lot of pride in that. So.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is a big deal
Mm-hmm.
because small business is really the backbone to the economy in the
Mm-hmm.
United States, and
Absolutely.
being able to be part of that, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
also supporting that community
Yeah.
as well by
Mm-hmm.
giving to other small businesses. And
Yeah.
as you grow, they can grow with you. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is just awesome. And that's where I like to play too,
Yeah.
is in that space as
Absolutely.
well.
It's a very
Yeah.
human and rewarding space, right? So,
Yeah.
so tell us your second one, right? What is that kind of piece that sort of drives you for resources?
I think it's processes,
Mm.
you know, and um, the more I talk to people, entrepreneurs, it's a challenge to kind of sit down and document each of the steps that you take
Mhm.
with everything that you do on a daily basis. But I'm sure you've lived this where it's absolutely critical for it to be done in order for you to grow
Mhm.
as a leader of your business, right? Because you have to be able to explain to someone that's going to be helping you with those particular tasks how you want things done, or how you log into Facebook to post, or whatever it is. Having all of that documentation in place, right, is
Mhm.
so critical. And it's difficult
Mhm.
because it's laborious, and it's something that we don't really necessarily
Yeah.
want to think about. We just want to do and get it done, right?
Mhm.
That's because that's the entrepreneurial way. But if we're not going to, if we're going to look at growth in 2024 and adding new staff or whatever, that really
Mhm.
seems to be a must do for me. And
Mhm.
I know that um, one one woman was really struggling with this. Her name was Amy, and before she put the processes in place, she was delegating things to her team, but they weren't completing them in the way that she wanted them done, or there would be bits
Mhm.
and pieces that weren't checked off the checklist that she
Mhm.
would then have to go back in and redo their work. So the team was getting frustrated, she was getting frustrated, and she was doing double the work because, it wasn't successfully being delegated.
Yeah.
But once she went through this process and she actually sat down with someone who does process management to kind of help guide her,
Mm-hmm.
then she was, everybody was happier. The team was happier because they
Yep.
felt like they were really
Yep.
contributing.
Mm-hmm.
And she was able to take vacation for the first time, you know,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
and
that's
walk away
huge.
from it. And isn't that huge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
No,
is.
and I will. Oh, I mean, it's so much harder to do that stuff. Like it's so like you think something's so simple, you don't need to document a process, and that is the best time to do it. Like when it is simple, because it'll grow with you. So
Yes,
yeah,
yeah. And
nice.
that I think that process management professional can also, like, question you, like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, well, you're doing it this way, but is that really the best way?"
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
it the most efficient way for
Yep.
you to move from point A to point B with this particular part of the process? So
Mm-hmm.
really, it does force you to kind of see, is there a different way of doing it that could be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And more beneficial for the whole organization. So,
Yep. 100%. So thank you. That no, the fact that time is so precious. So Amy takes vacation. That I get. That's like the exclamation mark to that point. So let's transition to the next piece, and let's talk about resilience. So we both talked a little bit about this, and we thought about these experiences or experiences we've shared or people have shared with us about what's made us stronger, what practices have we put into our lives to ensure resilience. So Dee, why don't you start with this first one and share something of your perspective here?
yeah, I think the one thing that comes top of mind to me, and that's probably because my background is in sales, is ABC, always be closing, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's so difficult as a solopreneur, especially, and when you're in a service business and you sell your services to someone, then you also have to deliver it because you're the everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so how do you balance that with also continuing to market, talk to potential new customers or clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I hear a lot from entrepreneurs is, well, why would I schedule time to talk with a potential client if I don't have any time to take anybody else on right now? You know?
Okay.
And so it's
Yep.
like that catch 22 is out there.
Yes.
And so, the thing that I relate is this one story about Kathy, who is the owner of a virtual assistant company.
Mm-hmm.
And she, within her first 6 months, she was just killing it. She had developed relationships with 3 key clients. They
Mm-hmm.
were bringing in the revenue that she had wanted to be doing on a monthly basis. They were all in different industries, so she felt like, okay, I'm kind of protected if something happens to one industry.
Right.
I'm still working with clients in different industries, so that's cool. And this one of the 3 really became like her largest client in terms of revenue that was being brought in and the amount of time that she was spending with that client.
Mm-hmm.
Then she got a phone call one day a couple of months ago that that client was growing so fast that they were actually going to bring those outsourced capabilities internally,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that would result in them, canceling their services
Mm-hmm.
with Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's her major revenue stream right there. The
Mm-hmm.
following week, she gets an email from um, her second of her 3 clients that says, "My business is not going well right now. I can't
Mm-hmm.
afford to keep using you. I have
Mm-hmm.
to reevaluate if I'm going to stay in business, what I'm going to do." So
Sleepless nights, right? That's like sleepless nights right there.
yes, yes, panic mode sets
Mm-hmm.
in, right? Sense of urgency because now she's got to recreate that revenue stream
Mm-hmm.
with new clients, and she had not been continuing her marketing. So, we really had to work to develop a strategy about who else had she connected with over the
Mm-hmm.
past 6 months that she could potentially reach out to really quickly to see if they were at the point where they needed some service and assistance.
Right.
And when you're in that panic mode and that sense of urgency, it can really kind of put a veil over your being objective about who you want to work with,
Yep.
because now you're in desperation mode. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing too, if you're in desperation mode, that can come across to a potential client
Mm-hmm.
as a negative.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of risks that can happen when you're not in that mode. So, the lesson learned here, I think, is yes, continue to market. Coca-Cola still does,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and continue to have those conversations and be honest with them if they are looking for support that you cannot do at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but learn about who they are, what their needs are, try to
Yep.
refer them to someone else that might be able to work with them right away, but,
Mm-hmm.
keep that relationship nurturing so that, when a situation like that arises, you've got a quicker timeline to pivot.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's a good future topic for us is the pipeline, right? Like how do you ensure it and how do you look at it? I think that'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Note to self,
Yes.
right? So, what about you in terms of your second tip for resiliency?
So, it's funny as I look at these, my tip for in resilience is all these. I feel like I should have learned them quicker, but at least I know them now. But so creating a niche of your offering, your services, whatever it is, and it's weird because I come from an advertising agency background, so at the time we were trying to be everything to everyone. Like that's what we did, and we would do if they had a need, we would try, whether it was planning an event or running an ad or plant media strategy, whatever it was. So now I realize the sooner you can hone the niche and you start to look at who you're who you're targeting, right? Like size of business, industries, that kind of stuff, but also what you do for them. Like really focus on the things that you do well. And the reason it's critical is because when you start doing this thing for these type of people, you start building these wonderful case studies. And
Yes.
they're not just random case studies, they are valuable case studies, which are here's how we solve the problem. And the more you do that and the more you get those on the record, the more it's a no-brainer for sales. You are the perfect fit for that type of person, and that's what you do. And you it also helps personally. You feel good about what you do. You feel more confident because you know that you can help them. Because early days, sometimes you're just like, should I say yes or no to someone? Like, now, like sometimes you work with people and they're not giving you time or respect or the knowledge you need to succeed. And eventually you realize how much that hurts you over business. But by doing niche and then proving your processes and your results, repeat, show results, show the success, then it just makes a big difference. So honing the niche of your offering, even and saying no to some things probably early on is my first tip with resilience. So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
about you? Let's hear a second one.
I think that's so true. I think the tendency is a lot of times when you start up in business is that the world is my oyster,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can go out and I can support everybody in every industry. And
Mm-hmm.
it's 1,000% better to niche it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really become that thought leader and that expert in that space and support your client most effectively. So
Mm-hmm.
lots of great valid points there. I think mine is future focus, right? And it's really about being aware of where the marketplace is going, right? And when you understand the buyer persona, like you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about, you can really hone in, right, on world in your client, heading, right? And a lot of times, some of the easiest ways to kind of understand that, of course, is with current clients to send out polls or surveys on a regular basis. But then also when you're having conversations with them, at least monthly or whenever, that get together time period is for you and your clients, to ask them what's changed in their business. What are some of the new challenges that they're working on that you may not have talked about on that last phone call together, right?
Mhm.
And then thinking through, really, can I solve that new challenge that my client is having? You know, can I add
Mhm.
that product or service to our repertoire, right? Uh,
Mhm.
the other side, the other way that you can kind of key into that too is checking out what books are selling on Amazon, right?
That's
And
smart.
really look into, what are those chapters covering? And again,
Mhm.
is that something that I can solve for my
Mhm.
clients? Or YouTube too. But then the other way of looking at the future focus is, um, I'll give you an example. Denise is a bookkeeper. And originally, when she started in business, she was going to support all kinds of industries within her local market. So her niche for her, in her mind, was her local area, right?
Mhm.
But there were already a number of bookkeeping services that were established in her local area, and their brands were well known. So it was
Mhm.
very, very difficult for her at the beginning to really get clients to make that switch from
Right.
using, an established brand to coming to her.
Mhm.
So we started talking about, what are some of the fastest growing industries, just out there around the country, and what did she have an interest in?
Mhm.
And she settled on social media managers because there was a lot of them that were coming onto the scene. And she's like, I will be the bookkeeper to social media managers, like you were
Nice.
saying, right?
Mhm.
And so by doing that, she extended her potential business growth opportunity to nationwide. So she's not
Mhm.
limited to her local area. But she does have those case studies and those things that she can point to when she's talking to potential clients, that's really helping her onboard more clients
Mhm.
because they feel like, hey, she gets me. She understands my business,
Mhm.
and that is so critical as well. So what was the other one for you?
Well, for me, so this one, I realize this is a little different than sort of the vendor and the partner section of how you treat people. But I would also say, and it ties into a lot of the stuff we've talked in, it's just really finding your people, like and it's not just networking, like you said, right? There's all kinds of networking that is good for you, and it's good for you. Another place to hear the pulse of what's happening and what the challenges are for people.
Mhm.
But it's really you need to identify people who are going through business, and they're going through the journey that you I mean, there's more structured groups where everybody is at a certain stage and you share these problems, but you also meet people, and you've got to be a little bit vulnerable at times with people. You can't, you know not everybody is a client, not everybody is a vendor. Sometimes there's just people who, you can share your challenges with. And you don't necessarily do it in the first introduction, but have the coffee, have the talk. And when you feel comfortable with people, share a challenge, right? Even though some people don't ever do that because they feel like it makes them look weak, or they feel like they're concerned about what that looks like as a business. But you've got to share some of your struggles, because you'll find that everybody's got them. And then when you start to have that conversation, you actually have someone that in over years will kind of back and forth, and we'll give you feedback, or even hey, I'm going to send this email to someone who's I've got this challenge with, like, there's all kinds of ways to get that, but when you have someone who is in this business, it just makes a huge difference. So it's really nice. So
Yeah, I think it's kind of like almost an unstructured type of mentorship, right? Where, but it's going in both directions. So you're not really looking at a mentor mentee type of thing, right? But you're able to have that vulnerability, like you said, with others, and you need that because when you're forward out facing to potential clients, that's when you want to look your strongest. But on the inside, you might be struggling with something that you do need somebody else to talk to about that.
Yep.
That's so true. So our final ingredient that we have was the planning side of it. And don't ask me why this gets me so excited, but I love planning. I love the visualization of it. I love saying, "Oh my gosh, these are my big hairy goals, for the new year, and how am I going to accomplish those?" I guess
that's why we have a good future, because I'm gonna need some help with that.
That's so funny. But I think that that you've got some interesting things about planning that obviously we're all in the throes of it right now for 2024. But what was your top suggestion for leveraging planning for future growth?
Okay, so this one once again is something it took me a little while to figure out, is time blocking. So really, you cannot succeed, in my opinion, unless you turn off the email and you put down your phone and you turn off Slack and you focus on things that you need to accomplish. So I do that with time blocking. And so as I look at a block of a week or on my calendar, I block time for things that need to be done. And I permanently block them without knowing what that thing is, from week to week. But as I look a week ahead, I put, a project. It could be, I need to do the end of year email, and I want it to be something that really is heartfelt, talks about our journey and our struggles, but where we're going next year. And I just need 20 minutes. I mean, all you need is 20 minutes, 30 minutes to do this stuff. But if you have email open, if you have the other stuff open, it's just not going to happen. And then you end up doing it at 9:00 at night. And it's just a different mentality. Whereas I want to put that stuff first. So time blocking, understanding administrative, right? Like invoicing, paying bills, client work, sales work, all these things that we have to do as entrepreneurs. We are wearing many, many hats. Well, let's put these hats on a calendar in different colors and let's just block it out, because I don't want to work at 6:00 on a Friday if I don't have to. Like, this is, why else am I doing this except to have, the life and the balance that I'm looking for. So, So what about you? Tell me one for you for planning. Yeah, I know it's your favorite topic, so try to keep it under control. So.
I think that's a good point, the time blocking. I actually just started doing it probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And it has been such a productivity improvement that, it was unbelievable to me what a difference that it could make. I have my to-do list and I love checking off my to-do list, right? But it doesn't have the same impact as putting it on the calendar. So I totally support where you're going with that. And I think that my tip, is definitely focusing on the business and not just in the business. And to your point, making sure that all of those different pillars of business management are being addressed over the course of the week or the month, right? And then one of the things that I had discovered was there is this British author. His name is Oliver Burkeman, Burkeman.
Okay.
and he's written books on time management and all that sort of thing. He developed a plan called the 333 plan.
Okay.
So it's kind of like time blocking, but it's drilling down into that. So, like, his thing was your most important project of the day. You set aside 3 hours to focus on that, right? So if my goal for 2024 is to grow my membership by, 200%, right? Then I've got to set aside the time to figure out how I'm going to get there, right? So that's my most important, project for each day is I devote time to that. Then you follow it by 3 shorter tasks that you can knock off your to-do list quickly. That gives you energy.
Yes.
Because, right? That's motivating. Oh, I got all these things done. Yeah, now I've
Quick
got more
wins, right?
energy.
Yeah.
Right? Then you go into the maintenance stuff and you focus on those 3 areas of maintenance activities. So those might be follow-ups, whether it's a follow-up phone call or a follow-up email, or it could be social media posts, whatever those regular things that you do, to maintain, right, the business. You work on those. And then I think between what Oliver's talking about and what you're talking about, putting those together, it's a pretty powerful planning tool for the future.
I like it. I'm gonna try it. I will try it and let you know.
Please do, yeah. And if anybody else in the group has anything that they use that that they find has worked well for them, throw it into the chat and let us know about it.
Yeah, we'll check it out for sure.
So what would be your final thing for planning?
So my final thing for planning is sort of a two-parter. So financial metrics broadly, just understanding that. And I'll add that if it's not your strength, you need to find that as an outsourced resource as soon as possible. So metrics with, there are all these tools and all these ways that you can look at, obviously revenue, income, expenses, but how do you know when you can hire somebody? How do you know if you need an administrative person or a client-facing person or something else? Like, these are huge questions, and it's really easy to either get ahead of yourself or not invest properly. And so you were talking about the person who had, lost the account and then they had to scramble. Like, that sales to service cycle is exhausting, and it does create this sort of not only energy drain, which is a big challenge for entrepreneurs, but also this kind of sense like, clients they can smell desperation. It's not attractive at all, right? In any world, right? So, you want to have the confidence to say, this is a service. I hope it works for you. I think it will help you. But if it's not, let's okay. I mean, just move on, not sort of this, crazy desperation feel, but the metrics, whatever it is, simple Excel to whatever other processes you use, really have a basic understanding of where the money's going, where it's coming from, and then just really related to time blocking as you start to evaluate your time regularly. When I look at last week or last 3 weeks, did I do sales, client work, administrative? What else was I doing? What can be outsourced? What can be automated? This all ties into financial metrics of what do you need as you grow. So
yeah, that's really true.
So
I'm big on data, and I think that using data to guide the decisions is where it's at for every business, right? And small business is very much a part of that, whether it's financial data or data on your website traffic or data on your social media posts or whatever data you can get your hands on and interpret it and let it tell you the story, right?
And use it, because there's too much, right? There's so much data. Like, find what helps you, right? Real purposeful.
Yes. And I am not the financial whiz at all. That's my husband's territory. So thankfully I have him,
Yeah.
to kind of guide me along the way. But if I didn't, I think to your point, picking up a class,
Mm-hmm.
the SBA offers so many free classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
On, just the basics to QuickBooks or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. Not so much that maybe you don't want to do that work. Maybe you want to hire a bookkeeper to do that work,
Mm-hmm.
but to be able to talk intelligently and understand that data is
Mm-hmm.
so critical for the entrepreneur to do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
So
yeah,
what
so
about you for your fourth item here for planning?
so for me, I've been trying to figure out for my own business how to
Mm-hmm.
incorporate the Pareto principle.
Okay.
And I think a lot of
Tell
people
us
are
about that.
very,
Yep.
yeah, I think a lot of people are very familiar with it, but maybe not by its name. So the Pareto principle is all about the idea that 80% of your outcome results from 20% of your effort. So, we're always all the time talking about working smarter, not harder kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. So, in the Pareto principle, it's all about figuring out the superpowers within your business, those levers that you can push and pull that truly drive the growth,
Mm-hmm.
and then focusing in on what those levers are and bringing all of your skills to bear towards that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but because your focus is so significant that it's only taking up 20% of your
Mm-hmm.
energy, right?
Yep. Yep.
You're still going to be able to work on all of the other aspects of the business, but that's going to move the needle along a lot faster for you as the business leader and for your team.
Do you
So
recall,
it's
was it for the identification portion? Like, were there a lot of like specific steps to how to identify what that 20% is? Or was it like, I assume there's a whole process for identifying like what's the key, of all the things you do, what are the key factors?
Yeah, and I think it really does depend on the organization itself, what you do, whether you're product or service focused, and
Mm-hmm.
then, all of those factors go into it, how mature
Okay.
you are as an organization
Mhm.
versus, if you're just in the startup mode, goes
Gotcha.
into it as well. We could probably dig deeper into that in a
Mm-hmm.
in a session, upcoming session, because
Okay.
that's yeah, let's definitely add that to the list.
Awesome. I
Um,
like it. So, well, we
wow,
have two questions. So when we can, we'll knock those out next. But anything else
yeah.
on the Pareto principle, do you think?
I would like to see if anybody's using any of, what we discussed from a planning
Mm-hmm.
purposes. If you are, please put it into the chat now and let's kind of learn from each other as well, because,
Mm-hmm.
we have our own experience,
Yeah,
but I'm certainly open to learning from others along the
always,
way.
right? 100%. So,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
can't believe how fast the time has flown.
I
It's
know, right?
11:45 already. My
We
goodness.
knew we liked to talk, right?
We got a lot to talk about.
So,
But maybe we should go ahead and get to the
yeah.
Q&A so that
Let's do it. So I
yeah.
just popped one up there. So
Okay.
Lori asks, how do you balance time management for business and personal life? It's a challenge for it's a lot of people. This is not going to be a foreign question. So what about you? I mean, Dee, what's your take on that? Any tricks for you?
I definitely put hard stops to my day
Mm-hmm.
and I walk
Mm-hmm.
away, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Working from home, but I'm in a dedicated office.
Mm-hmm.
So I can, walk out and close the door behind me
Mm-hmm.
and try really, really hard not to think about it afterward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and so I just try to shut that mind down. I know sometimes I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and I've got a pad next to the side of my, on my nightstand that I can reach out and grab and write a note,
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
rather than lighting up the entire room with my iPhone and waking my
So
husband.
annoying.
That I can jot something down if it comes to me, but really trying to then put the focus on family,
Mm-hmm.
at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, whether that's a 5:30 stop, a 6 o'clock
Yep.
stop, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And making that my next priority,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
so that helps
100%.
to keep the personal life there,
Mm-hmm.
and because otherwise I could probably do this all day and all night long.
Right. Now, yeah, when you have a passion and you're enjoying it, I totally get it. And I'm with you. It's you just have to make the choice that and remind yourself, with some things. And even I started putting my phone away from the bed, right, when it's charging. So it's like not the first thing I see just to kind of change my just tiny little changes of my priority. So
Mhm.
okay, so we have one more question from Scrib Creative. So it's a little bit about AI. We've been talking about AI and where we might go with that conversation down the road. But do you use AI to seek out data? Anything that you use that to streamline things with technology? So I guess broadly AI for learning and data. Any takes there, or I could take a
Mm.
first pass if you don't have a off the cuff answer.
So I think from AI perspective, where I've dabbled the most is with Chat GPT,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Same.
that's more from a content development standpoint and
Mm-hmm.
thinking of ideas for either my newsletters or my social posts and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And that has really helped to streamline my productivity
Mm-hmm.
from that perspective, because it just gets me to think of additional things that I haven't been able to come up with on my own,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, from a data perspective, I've used it for research on certain things to
Mm-hmm.
find data,
Mm-hmm.
in that regard. But, there's so many new AI tools that are popping up every day that it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard to keep up with or know which ones to turn to. What about
Yeah.
you?
Same. I like Chat GPT, and I've mostly used it to spur sort of these ideas, help with focus, like try to get a sense of, you know, what is important to these type of people. So to guide my own conversations, kind of like you were talking about with looking on, Amazon and different places. The one thing that is interesting as I look at, the question from Scrib is that I don't know, and I already know for a fact that AI is not always true, right? Like if you've seen the
Yes.
stuff about math, you ask it a question, it's wrong, you ask it again, it just gets more and more wrong because it's trying to give you what you want. So it's really interesting because so the same is true. Like if I ask, what does a CEO in the telecom industry care about when it comes to marketing or sales enablement or whatever it might be, it
Yeah.
is actually good. It helps me start my conversation and my learning process. It can help me with outlines and emails and things like that. But there is a question of what does it really know, and so it definitely has to be validated in that way. So for sure.
Yes. Yeah, you can't take it at face value is what I've
Hmm.
learned, and to
Hmm.
really be able to do your own research beyond ChatGPT.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. For sure. And then we just have one more comment, which I love. So Jane Shelton just talked about passion, about, the people you work with, the people you choose to work around, their passion, the way they approach things. It does make everything better. So thanks for that comment, Jane. So,
I
yeah.
like yeah, I come from that angle.
Hmm.
That is where my passion and my purpose kind of, combine, right?
Right.
Is to really encourage others for
Hmm.
success. So,
Hmm.
you're talking my song there, Jane, for sure. It's like, you're singing my tune. But I think that if you go into anything with that mindset that you just want to be a help, and
Mhm.
that there's no ulterior motive, and you're not expecting anything in return,
Mhm.
that the return will come as
Mhm.
a result of that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Well,
um I would love to know. Yes, passion and purpose together. Thanks, Jane. I would love to know, like, what are some of the things that our audience is feeling is the biggest challenges for their small business to overcome for 2024.
mhm.
Kristina and I are thinking about doing weekly sessions where we can just tackle one particular topic on a weekly basis. And we would love to get some ideas from you guys as to what's high priority to tackle. And, we can all come together and brainstorm, whether in this format or through
Mhm.
Zoom, and, really try to make our lives a little bit easier for all of us, because it's hard
Mhm.
enough being an entrepreneur, right?
Mhm. Yes, that's for sure. And so what this will be recorded too and posted. So please just leave if you have thoughts on this after the live version, just post it in the comments because we will be revisiting and sort of selecting our cadence for going live and our next steps for it. So
Yeah, and if
that'd
you
be great.
haven't connected with us, please do so on LinkedIn so we
Mhm.
can invite you to those future events. And
Yes.
before we go, I just want to see what were anybody have a top takeaway that they'd like to share? Yeah, anybody in the audience have a top takeaway from our session today? Was there anything that just kind of gave you confidence? Yeah, I'm on the right track, or anything that gave you a moment where you thought, I need to work on that, or
Yeah.
think about doing that? Shut the door behind you when you leave.
Yeah, it's true. The tools change a lot as
Yeah.
well. So I think it would be kind of fun to have a challenge and then a tool evaluation, perhaps, or something. That'd be fun, like something human and something tech, like blend them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That would be really cool.
so yeah, and then definitely, Jane said time management is key. So for sure.
It is. And it kind of forces us to do those tasks that we really try to put off and not want to do until
Mhm.
we're forced into it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The time management makes it easier for
yeah.
us.
And
Yeah.
Steven said flexibility and resilience. So for sure. So.
Yeah. Having that adaptability is
Mhm.
key. I know there was a poll that one of the entrepreneur groups I'm in recently did, and they said that adaptability and resilience were the number one critical skills that it takes
Mhm.
to run a successful small business. So
Right.
spot
Awesome.
on there, Stephen.
Well, great. Well, Dee, we're coming to a close. We actually went just as long as we thought it'd be shorter, but here we go. So,
Well, yeah,
um,
we give you guys 5 minutes back in your day.
thank you, Dee, for that. I appreciate it. So, all right. So we are wrapping up, and hope you guys have a great day. So.
Have a great day and happy holidays, guys. And we hope to see you again soon. Bye now.